project like this comes together, we have been talking to DC Comics about doing something with them for a while. And All-Star Superman was the first project we talked about, the first project that we kind of wanted to do to tie in with the movie that came out. And so it was always going to be All-Star. And we were talking about, okay, well, what do we need for the script? What's the full cast going to be? How are we going to approach the very visual language of this and turn it into something that we can say out loud?
That's really cool. And that was your idea to pitch All-Star Superman first to them? Like, did you know that was an inspiration for the movie, or?
It wasn't my idea, frankly, but because it was an inspiration for the movie,
Yeah.
part of that was like, this is the one we should come out with.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the one we should do. It's beloved, it's famous, it's well known, and it is the kind of thing that like, it's the kind of thing that's going to make people sit up and be like, ooh, All-Star Superman?
Yeah. I was that way when I saw the audition. I was like, All-Star Superman? Oh, wow.
That's the highest level version
Yes.
of things. So, but then once we had that, you know, it was about hiring a writer, and we hired Megan Fitzmartin to write it. And her job was adapting the comic book, but also adding so much to it to make it play out loud. You know, who's the narrator going to be? How are we going to capture all these visuals in a space where you can't see any of them? So we worked with her on that. We worked with her in DC, sort of like making sure that it was what we wanted for PRH and what DC wanted the project to be. And then once we had that final script, we went in search of actors. And that's where we found you, Mark.
Yeah. I got an email, I think, from you or my agent, Sherry, saying I had to sign an NDA first before I could be told what it was. I was like, oh, okay. So I signed it. And then Nick said, okay, now I can tell you it's All-Star Superman. I was like, what? So I was extremely excited just because I love that comic, that graphic novel, or that run, I should say. And I did originally I was sent to audition for Jarrell and I think Samson, and I was very excited to do that. And I was like, yeah. But then I never do this, but I felt like if I don't ask, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life. I was like, hey, I know you didn't ask, but here's a sample of what I might do for Superman. So I just kind of found a scene that I liked, and I did a scene for Superman, and I sent it off, and I was kind of nervous because I didn't want to be that guy, and I felt weird doing it, but I just felt like I was going to regret it. And then he wrote back, oh, you beat me to it. Like, so I was like, oh, okay, so maybe they were just doing it in sections, but I just felt like I got to at least try. So
No, that's true. Like we had been doing sort of like, we had been approaching the casting in kind of rounds of looking for people for these roles, looking for people for those roles. Kevin Thompson, the director of it, like once he came on board and he and I were talking about these things, Kevin and I have done all the Star Warses together, and Mark has been in a lot of those as well. So I had started like casting, and then he came into the discussion. It's like, okay, well, we need to get more reads from the people we've already asked for reads for. We need to get more actors to audition for the roles. You think you know who you want for, just sort of like make the net wider, cast the net wider. And we hadn't talked about Superman yet, because I was like, I'm a huge fan. Like, how do you cast the voice of Superman? Like, and it was so clear to me. Like, we got tapes from I don't know how many people, but I'd listen to one and I'd just be like, he's great, but he's not right. That's not what Superman sounds like. And I'm like, I don't even know how to describe what I'm looking for. You know, I had frankly been putting that off a little bit because I kind of knew what Pa Kent sounds like. I kind of know where I want Samson and Atlas to be. So yes, you sent me your tape for Superman from a scene later in the thing, and we had a different side. We had some different sides prepared for Superman, so I sent them back to you.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yeah, you beat me to it. Here's what I'd actually like you to read, so that DC can consider you against all the other candidates that were getting to read these sequences."
And you gave me some additional direction, which was incredibly helpful because, it was the longest specs I've ever received for an audition. Like usually it's like 40-something male, gruff, you know, but like Nick wrote back, like, you know, I think like 2 or 3 paragraphs of just, you know, really digging deep into who Superman is and what qualities we wanted to highlight. And the thing that helped me the most is because I do tend to get cast more. I'm a character actor, so I do trying to kind of like come up with the voice of so and so. And you, of all the direction, you said this one simple thing, which is like, don't think of doing a voice of Superman, be Superman. And that like really helped me tremendously because I sometimes have a hard time not hiding behind the voice, and like, so that direction gave me permission and guidance of how to approach this. And it really, really helped. So I'm extremely grateful for you and all that. And to know that I got your approval because I know how much you love Superman, which is also why I was a little timid about putting my foot in there. Cause like, I know he probably has someone else in mind, but I just want to try.
You and I have worked together for so many years, for so many things, and talked about Superman in so many ways. Yeah. No. And it was so helpful for you to send that like cold audition in because I heard your voice. And it was very like, that was a note I would have given you on your first read. Right. But like, I heard that initial thing you'd sent me and I was like, oh, this is almost just like spot on. Right. And that's when I was like, okay, here's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was the like, just be it. And part of that note I remember sending to you is like, we talked about this a lot of like, this is Superman, this is Lois, this is Lex, but it's all-star Lex, it's all-star Lois, it's all-star Superman. So we are casting the sort of like archetype of Pa Kent, but what is Pa Kent in this story? How is Superman in this story? And if we were to do a different Superman audio, you could easily imagine we'd need a different kind of voice to be a different Superman.
Yeah.
But the word I kept using throughout all of All-Star was he's so human.
Yeah.
He's so human.
Yeah.
And it's Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison talk about how their artwork for him is very relaxed.
Yeah.
And like he's the strongest man in the world. He's impervious to everything. Shouldn't he be chill?
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be like the most relaxed person ever?
Yeah.
Because he knows he's in no real danger.
Right.
And like, if you look at that artwork, that he's slouching at times. He's just kind of like, he's very comfortable when he sits, kind of things. And that all tracks into that very humanness.
Yeah.
Of what this guy needed to be.
Yeah. And like even in your initial direction, you talked a lot about his warmth and his, gentleness and kindness. And I think maybe a unique aspect of this particular story for All-Star Superman, like Kevin Thompson, who directed me, also helped with that and helped keep me on track with that. Because sometimes my action movie fandom like wanted to take over, and I was like, wanted to get really aggressive, and he'd be like, "Oh, hold on, like we don't, he's not going to be vengeful. He's not, But so there's that fine line between strength and authority, and like rage or whatever, and especially for this telling of Superman, it needed that, and so he and you really helped keep that on the track.
So when we started working with Megan, what we actually did is we asked her to write the script for chapter 2, which is Superman and Lois in the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh, wow.
That we figured was going to be kind of like our bellwether. What is this going to be? How is this going to feel? And once that sample chapter got approved by DC, we're like, okay, cool. Now we have an idea. Let's please write the rest of it.
Yeah.
And that chapter also has caption box narration in it. So it was very much thinking of like, okay, how do we incorporate it? How do we expand upon it? Where does it go? What stuff do we need to kind of connect or omit? Like that chapter kind of had a case study in every little thing that's going to happen in the program that's going to happen bigger later.
Yeah.
Megan wrote a great script for it. I love Megan's script for this thing. And the first version, we kept working with her to sort of like figure out the best way to show to tell the visuals, but not over tell them. And we tried versions where we almost didn't tell them at all. And it felt like the pacing was off. It felt like something was missing. And so we needed to sort of figure out like, okay, well, how do we do it? How do we incorporate all of this in? Part of my initial pitch to DC on how we were going to do this was that someone different is going to narrate all throughout, because the story is all about seeing everyone in Superman's life connect to him, seeing him connect to everybody. And then it's not until issue 10 or so where he takes over the narration boxes when he's writing his will. For me, very much it was about like, okay, Superman, we're going to meet everybody who knows Superman, and then we're going to meet Superman.
That's cool.
And that's the arc of the comic book. That's arc. That's how it works. So we were trying to figure out how we do this. You know, what is a narrator? Who is a narrator? What is it like? And eventually, Megan and I kind of got around to the idea of thinking of them as the narrator sometimes speaks and the narrator sometimes thinks. So in the script, all the narration is called Lois thinking or Pa Kent thinking. And that kind of found the way that it stays in present tense. It reflects and comments on things that are happening. It can talk about the beautiful sunset over the Kent farm and then stay in the scene with Pa and young Clark. And that was the sort of way we figured out how to bring all of that visual language in, but still root it so solidly in the characters.
It was such a brilliant approach. Like, she did an amazing job adapting it, and that concept is such a great way to approach it, because I remember, auditioning for it again. I was super excited, but I was like, so how are they going to do this? Because Frank Quitely's artwork is so essential to what makes that such a great, comic. So it's like, how do you, if you can't see those images, how do you do that? And then once I read it, I was like, okay, yeah, because it still takes you in there, and the thoughts, sometimes paint that picture or set that vibe, and it still communicates a lot of that, And you can always, what I did was I had the comic side by side with the script, and that's a great way to listen to it, or to enjoy it, is because then you can really get a lot of different experiences at once, but it works on its own as well.
And you weren't the only actor to have them side by side. Like, we had a copy of the graphic novel in the studios when we were recording in New York, where it was like, all right, it's on page 163 of the script, and it's 184 in the graphic novel. So we turn it like, or very much like, can you give us a read that's a little smaller, and then we look at the font and they're like, oh, right. No. She looks contemplative in this scene, not angry. Got it. Yeah. And give you a reading that's more like the artwork.
Yeah, totally. I went on a rabbit hole of YouTube videos with Grant Morrison explaining some of his thought process of writing it and different interviews with him. I did rewatch a little of the Donner Superman. And then, like we talked about earlier, I do think you and Kevin directing me helped me find that voice, and just think of it not so much as a voice as it was an attitude or a mindset. So I'm trying to kind of embody that mindset of strength and kindness and confidence, because you're so strong, so you don't have to maybe intimidate. It's more just, even when it's the whole Samson and Atlas thing, it's more just about, almost mild annoyance that it is like trying to prove myself, or, So that was the main thing. And then with Clark, there was this great illustration in the back of the graphic novel where they did a sketch of Clark and a sketch of Superman. And they kind of showed how they intentionally kind of made the spine curve, so like Clark is a little bit more slouched. And so I had some glasses with me that I would just put on during the Clark scenes, and I would maybe slouch a little bit more. And a big part of All-Star Superman for Clark is that when he's being Clark, a lot of times he's intentionally kind of bumping into things, or kind of, knocking stuff over. And a lot of times that's to try to covertly save someone, or, so like, but I tried, as much as the microphone would allow, like kind of, shuffling around. Oh gosh, well, so a lot of it was that type of stuff. So hope, and I think it comes through in the audio. But it was fun to kind of get a little theatrical with it, and kind of, even if you can't see the glasses, maybe you can hear the glasses.
I also want to ask you about the Black K Superman.
Oh yeah.
And Zibarro.
Yeah.
Because so in the script, in the graphic novel, Zibarro and Superman look very much alike.
Yeah.
And it was one of Megan's notes in the script that those should be the same actor to replicate that feeling in audio that is in the graphic novel, that these are two sides of the coin, so
Yeah.
to speak. Which is also incidentally why you don't play Bizarro,
Yeah.
because Bizarro in this version is a slightly different thing.
Yeah.
And so we wanted. I know we talked about that at one point where you were disappointed you weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you're going to do this other alternate version of Superman.
Sorry, Sean, you were amazing. Sean, you were amazing.
So yeah, tell me about like Zibarro and Black K.
I guess the Black K Superman was my way of maybe trying to sneak my Bizarro voice in there, because like, but it was kind of written that way.
Which is how it's written.
Yeah. So like,
that's true.
So I kind of maybe snuck that in there. You know, Superman's very smart and he was very dumb, and you know, so but Zibarro, it was a really interesting character. Like I like that we kind of learn about Superman through Zibarro's experience, and like, you know, being the one outcast on the planet, or the one that's different. And I guess, like, you know, for Superman, whether consciously or not, like he kind of was more, you know, smooth and kind of, you know, warm and all that. And so I think Kevin on the day helped me fine tune it, but we kind of like, maybe if Superman's smooth, we're going to make Zibarro a little rough, but we don't want to make him like all the way, you know, Bizarro, because he is different than the Bizarro. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a slight gravel, you know, and like Superman feels a little bit more kind of hometown, and Zibarro is this poet, you know, and so there was a bit of a regalness I was trying to play with about, you know, him being artistic and you know, like a slight elevatedness about how he's speaking because of how he views the I don't know, the poetry in life, or, you know, and so it took a little fine tuning on the day, but because I wasn't sure if I was just going to straight up, I wasn't sure if it would be like a filter on him, and we just wanted it to be kind of the same voice and just made it alter it digitally, or, but those are some of the things I was thinking. So
cool.
Yeah.
Wrangling a huge cast into a cohesive project.
Lots of experience.
Yeah. Mark's laughing because I think we've done 4 or 5 Star Warses now.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Plus, you and I did Max in the Midnights.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So it really a project this big really is just like a constant series of small fires, and you fix one, and then the next one goes off, and you just have to make sure you're putting them out in the right order. And that's all project management is. There's something like 100 speaking roles in this one, but the majority of them have like 1 or 2 lines. Mm-hmm. So right from the beginning, it was like, okay, how many roles are there? How many roles do I need to find unique actors for? And then once I do that, how many other roles can those actors play? Mm-hmm. And then you start filling in the gaps. Well, I don't want Sean to play 2 characters too close to each other. Mark can play 2 characters close to each other. So, you know, it sort of all figures out. Then it was all about just scheduling. We spent 10 days recording this, which I think is our longest.
Wow.
And we had something like 26 actors in it,
wow,
all told. Again, some actors, you know, coming in for an hour or 2 to do 2 or 3 characters that weren't very, you know, one featured scene and that kind of thing. And then other people like Mark, you think we were in 3 days doing it all. And the first day was with Kristen C playing Lois Lane,
who was amazing. She did such a great job.
That's that first part of like, okay, we got to get everything organized so the actors know what to do and know where to show up. And then once everything's recorded, it all gets turned over to Kevin Thompson and Paul Goodrich and Justin Kilpatrick, who are the sound designers and editors on these things for me. And they put it all together, made everybody sound like they're talking to each other, and then did that sound design. And we had a composer, Lindsay Jones, doing original music. So as all of those pieces are coming together, Kevin and Paul are working what sometimes feels like nonstop. Mm-hmm. And they are sending me chapter by chapter, and I'm listening to it, and I'm sending them notes like, oh, can you make that bigger? What if we move this timing a little differently? And then that's how it all slowly comes together.
Yeah. And it's so like immersive. Like when you're listening to it, it feels like you're in the spaces that the scenes are happening in. And like, it's very clear when someone's thinking and someone's actually speaking, and the the flying and the heat vision. I was like, everything is just it feels like a radio play, and just I feel like there's that team is so great at what they do.
And real credit to Kevin, who knows he's such a good director because he can make sure that performances recorded days, or in this case, actually like weeks apart, feel like they're talking to each other. They feel like they're in the same scene. You know, how many times it's, you know, you say a line of Superman to Bizarro, and then it's like, no, actually, Sean did the line back to you differently. So he says, a week ago we recorded Sean, and it was this. So you have to answer that thing that he did to you. And he's got great notes, and he keeps it all in his head, and it's really, really spectacular work. We recorded this across, I wish I knew how many states, but there were definitely New York, Texas, LA.
Wow.
I think we had someone in Chicago. We had 2 people in Texas.
Cool.
So like this is all over the place.
I mean, to me, Christopher Reeve is the gold standard. So it's hard, you know, I don't know that I was taking a specific moment or line reading from him, but I mean, that's who I'm drawing a lot of. That's just my Superman. So definitely that. I was excited that I got to do the Crypto Barks because of the trailer had come out for the new movie, and Crypto is amazing in the movie. So I'm going to highlight that on my resume from now on. But I don't necessarily feel like I'm in the role of what can I put into it as much as like, what can I highlight that's there? Like, what can I underline that's there, you know?
I think that's a good answer, because like we're working so much from the script and so much from the artwork.
Yes.
You know, and it's that moment of, well, this is in the artwork, so it has to be there. We want to make sure we're honoring every little bit we can.
Yeah.
Far more than me thinking like, oh, I really like this thing from the other program.
Yeah.
Or the other project.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we have something in it.
Yeah. The artwork was a huge thing. And so there were certain moments where maybe I was like, I want to make sure I say this line this way to honor what was drawn. You know what I mean? And to help maybe make clear either that facial expression or in the jail when he's, you know, with Lex. And I want to make it clear that I'm like pulling the cord out of the wall as I'm tripping on this trip take, or I'm blowing super breath as I'm saying this line, really trying to, you know, little things like that.
Yeah. There are things though that are in Frank and Grant's graphic novel that I'm so happy are in there, because then we got to do them. Things like Perry White saying "Great Caesar's Ghost," you know, heat vision, the effect that Kevin came up with for the X-ray vision in the prison sequence, I think is great.
Yeah.
You know, freeze breath, Bizarro, like the fact that they included so much classic Supermanisms in All-Star,
right,
was such a delight, because it's like, oh great, now we get to do all these classic Supermanisms in All-Star. One of the ones I loved hearing you do, Mark, is every time Superman flies or lands, Kevin always was like, okay, just give me a little effort for it, or a little touchdown noise. And he's like, I'll put in the whoosh, I'll put in the boots hitting the ground, but we need just that little bit of sound when you land, that little bit of sound when you take off.
Lots of practice.
I think part of the reason All-Star is beloved is what we were talking about the way his character is presented. He's so warm, he's so human, he is so the opposite almost of other versions of a comic book hero. Where it's far more about talking to people than it is about action sequences. And there are action sequences in the book.
Sure.
Other versions of Superman highlight his empathy and compassion as well. But like, this starts off so strongly with him wanting to have an honest conversation with Lois Lane. And that's what issue 2 is about. Like the whole thing.
Reading it, I was struck by, I guess it's not a spoiler, but like he finds out he's going to die. I really was touched by every interaction he has with different people along the way. There's this hope that maybe they could pick up the mantle, because he's like, he's not focused on how sad, like, oh man, I'm dying, I'm not going to be here anymore. But it's more like, okay, I'm not going to be here. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to help this planet? And like, maybe if Lex would just change, maybe it could be Lex, or new Kryptonians are here, maybe it's them. Oh no, and it's like you just see how disappointed he is that like, won't somebody, I need somebody to please take care of them when I'm gone. And that was very inspiring and moving to me. And just, I really like that aspect of his character in All-Star Superman. So I get it, because I also was like, well, how, if you can't see the images, how is this going to work? But it really works. Like Megan did a great job. Kevin and all of you guys do great. It's like a radio play. And I did an interview with someone recently, and they were talking about how even the idea for Superman to actually fly, because originally he just leapt tall buildings in a single bound, came from the radio play. And I never knew that. And I was like, oh, so like there's actually a rich history of audio enhancing the character, and I think, I think this does a great job of immersing you in that world and in him. And, with books and with audio, sometimes with images, the focus is the image, but with audio, you get to kind of hear the inner monologue. And there's some, or in books, you get to hear the inner monologue. And there's something unique and special about that you're missing out on if you're not checking it out. So check it out. It's really awesome.
Everything you love about All-Star Superman is in our audiobook. Mm-hmm. And there's also more in our audiobook that isn't on the page. Yes, some of it is narration, some of it is monologuing, but some of it is also just like bringing the scenes to life in a way, or connecting dialogue in a way. Again, I'm going to always come back to chapter 2, the Superman Lois dinner scene mm-hmm. in chapter 2. Like you get to really hear character arcs in performance that are there on the page.
Yeah.
And just by getting actors to do them, you sort of hear how these thoughts are progressing, how one chapter influences the next.
And sometimes hearing you say that, it's like sometimes when you read different comics or different runs of Superman or any character, you get to see how that particular illustrator sees that character. And in this audio production, you get to hear how different people approach these characters, and maybe a different way. Like I feel like when I see different runs of Superman and the way he's drawn differently, it makes me appreciate different aspects of him or different, and so I think that's true in these performances as well, as you get to hear maybe a different color or a different line of, like how, oh, that's an interesting way to approach that, so it's really hard to narrow it down to 5. And you're saying all media. So Brandon Routh and Superman Returns, I feel like it's a bit of an underrated Superman. And I love the scene where he catches the plane right before it hits the ground, and it's still the safest way to travel, so like I really liked his performance. It was very close to Christopher. That was the intention of the movie, but I like that one.
That was not on my list.
Yeah.
But I agree. His performance is really strong in a film where he is being asked to do something. If honestly, for Brandon Routh, I will go to the Kingdom Come Superman that he plays in the Arrowverse when he's playing that older Superman.
Yeah.
Those crossovers,
which is great for him as an actor, and the parallels are great.
And it's so great. And he has that kind of, you mentioned Zibarro having a regalness, and I think that's one of the things that Routh really brings to it. It's like a sort of like commanding stillness that works really well once he himself is a little bit older for the role.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if I have mine in a specific order, but my number 5 would be the Fleischer animated shorts from the 1940s. Those are just, they're about 10 minutes long each. They're whiz bang. They are, again, the origin and the sort of formation of a lot of Superman's mythology, flying, the changing in the phone booth. Like, even if it doesn't come from those shorts, it's there, and it's almost all there, fully formed, all at once.
All right, I'm kind of cheating because I really did have a hard time narrowing this down. But like on number 4, I'm going to give it to Kingdom Come, Superman, and Birthright.
Birthright, yes.
I
didn't think of that one.
I love those runs, and I love the artwork in both of those. I love the story. Actually, it's a 3-way tie between the Ed McGuinness, Jeff Loeb run of Superman Batman.
Yeah.
I love So those yeah, sorry, I couldn't narrow it down, but those yeah,
Birthright is a favorite of mine too.
So good.
Like it's so good.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting take on him as a almost reluctant hero.
Mhm.
It's such a good take on how Krypton, his parents, affect him.
Mhm.
And I also really love that it feels like it really does sort of like allow itself to be inspired by a lot of previous Superman, but in no moment is it copying a previous version of Superman.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really,
Yeah.
really astounding.
Yeah.
I'll continue the comic love because to me it's from 1986 to 1994.
Okay.
It is the Man of Steel John Byrne reboot
Okay.
up through the death and return of Superman.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Yeah,
lot. That's
yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
I'm cheating a lot, but it's John Byrne, Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, Louise Simonson, Roger Stern, John Bogdanove, like that era of Superman.
Yeah.
When it's the triangle numbers on the covers
Mm.
and like such an interconnected story. That's where you get Cat Grant. That's where you get Ron Troop. That's where you get these Daily Planet members like really becoming part of the supporting cast. Lois finds out that Clark is Superman. I remember buying that issue as a kid, and it's a photo of, it's a shot of Lois taking the glasses off.
Oh,
and you see
yeah.
in the glasses reflection the backwards S of the person she's looking at.
That's
It's
good.
phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
phenomenal. So that run for me is my comic answer.
That's
to
great.
sort of like the Superman. He's the Superman in my head.
My number 3 is Tim Daly as Superman in the Superman animated series and Justice League Unlimited.
I'm going to jump in because that would also be my number 3.
Oh, cool.
Superman animated series was on my list as well.
Yeah. It felt like an homage to Max Fleischer, maybe sort of.
Yeah, that very like Art Deco-y 1940s, but maybe it's also the present.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I thought all those shows were great and loved them. So yeah. My number 2, and I'm not just saying this, but like All-Star Superman really was my, like it was very important to me for all the reasons we've already talked about. And I'm going to cheat again and just say to tie between, I really liked the new James Gunn Superman. Like I just felt like the action, the heart, everything kind of came together for me, and I really, really enjoyed that. So
my number 2, I think, is going to be Tom Welling in Smallville.
He was a close, yeah.
He's up there, right?
Yeah, totally,
but like,
totally.
The show runs for a very long time, for 10 years.
Yeah.
And 10 years is an awful long time to sustain anything.
Sure.
But when you find the best of it, it's exceptional.
I would agree.
Like one of the things I think that show does incredibly well is position his understanding of a secret identity and like why he's going to need one and how he's creating it. And it's not the idea that he just shows up as this guy. It's the idea that like the Clark Kent you know as a capable person over time slowly kind of unravels into this other Clark, so that when Superman shows up, you don't think, why is Clark suddenly acting weird? Because he's obviously it's a disguise.
Yeah.
But like the sort of like slow progression, and a 10-year series gets you the opportunity to do this, right? To like really explore those subplots before they coalesce.
Yeah.
So Tom Welling Smallville is my number 2.
That's awesome. All right, and then we might be the same here, but my number 1 is Christopher Reeve, Superman. For me specifically, Superman 2. But yeah, that's my Superman. That's probably it'll be hard to ever top Christopher Reeve as Superman, just because that performance was made. That movie, I saw it at a time where it was very formative, and so love it. General, would you care to step outside?
Obviously, also Christopher Reeve for me, number 1. Like in some ways, he's the only answer to this question. I think. I am going to give the shout out to Superman 3.
Okay.
Because I think Superman 3 is maybe his finest performance, because you're seeing him play Superman, you're seeing him play Clark, but it's the Clark that Lana knows.
Okay.
So it's that like really familiar small town boy, as opposed to the potentially commedia dell'arte Clark falling over himself in the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
And then he also gets to play the evil, disaffected Superman.
That is true. Like yes, the junkyard scene was pretty amazing, and he's so good in it. And again, showing what a great actor he is. Like, because both of those are distinct very convincing character. So
it's the scene one of the scenes to me is the one right as the kryptonite's starting to affect him, when he's with Lana and the bridge is collapsing, and Lana gets the call, and Lana's like, "You have to go," and he just has this like, and it feels like the same character as he says, "There's no rush," and he just casually sits down, and she's on edge, but he is just like, "No, it's fine. I always get there in time."
Right.
And you see where it's going to go, but it's still unsettling.
Yes,
because it's so much like Superman.
Wow, that's great.
That was a fun question.